Hey everybody, Tim here. I just want to walk you through my points over expectation spreadsheet. I've gotten a lot of questions about it, great questions, and want to just try to explain all the different tabs because there's a lot going on. I'll just be going through tab by tab. This shouldn't take any more than a couple minutes, but hopefully you'll leave here today knowing what you can find with the spreadsheet, how to interpret the data, what all the numbers mean. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. So we have a lot of different tabs here. Some of them they're all color-coded different things. These ones in the beginning with the blue are all interactive. So we can go in and we can just type in any player's name and pull up their data. It might take a second to update, but you should be able to pick any player in the league, whether they've played 0 minutes or a lot, rookies, veterans, anything like that. So I picked Kyle Kuzma, team's Lakers. It shows how many games he's played. This will update. These will change, and they'll be in order of usage. So he spots up the most. So 32.5% of his possessions are that, 66 of them. So these will change. So if I change this to Lou Williams, these will they change. So you can see for each thing, for the, let's say, spotting up, he's had 31 of them. On those 31, based on the league average points per possession on spot ups, which is 0.98 currently, he would be expected to score 30.5 points. He actually scored 32 points, so the difference between 32 and 30.5 is 1.5. So he's plus 1.5. He scored 1.5 more points than an average player would be expected to score from spot ups. We can do that for everything. You can see he's been below average as a roll man, which makes sense. A little bit below average cutting, but really, really far above average as the pick and roll ball handler. And we can look at these per game. So overall, over the course of the season, he scored the Clippers about 32 points, more than an average player would, which turns out to be 2.4 points per game. This is same stuff, but for his defense. You can see there are less categories because Synergy doesn't track cuts for individual defenders and a couple of these other ones. But same thing. This time, if the number is positive, it's bad. So we saw up here 23.6, that's good, but 8.5, that's bad. He's giving up more points than an average player would. So add this all up, and he's 1.1 points worse than the expectation per game. And these are on possessions where he is the primary defender. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the closest person to the shooter when the shooter shoots, but in most cases, that'll be what's happening. And so let's see. So, and then on the side here, you can see the last time the document was updated. So this is a little out of date. I've been updating it every single day after games have ended. So you can expect that to change between like 11 p.m., probably like 9 and 11 p.m. Pacific time every night. For any of these stats, just hover over something and it'll tell you what it means. So this is showing his possessions per game on offense and defense, his expected points per possession overall, his actual points per possession, the difference between those two. And then so this CPOE, created points over expectation, that is the same as this number. So this is the points per game he's scoring more than an average player would score if they were given the same possessions. And that expectation's, again, based on the league averages for those. So that's the CPOE. DPOE, defensive points over expectation, is the same thing but for defense. With these, we can see, all right, he would be expected to score 14.6 points per game based on the shots he's taking, based on those possessions he has, but he's actually scoring 17, and that's how we get this number. He's 23rd in the league offensively in this CPOE, and that puts him in the 95th percentile. Same stuff for defense. And then overall, if you were to take his points he's expected to score minus the points he's expected to give up, that would result in a plus minus for just points scored as a 7.8, but he's actually a 9.2. So that means his points over expectation, which encapsulates that offense and defense, it's really just 2.4 minus 1.1 is 1.3. So he's, over the course of the year, he's been plus 17 points, and he's in the 82nd percentile. So that's what this tab does. That's the player profiles tab. Next, we will go to the team profiles tab. This is the same stuff. You can just type any team in, and their data will update. So like the Lakers, and right now this is just for offense, but I'll add defense soon. So right now the Lakers are scoring 6.4 points per game less than an average team would if they had the same possessions. Now we can go to the player comps tab. This one's fun. You can really screw around with this. I'll soon be adding the pickup basketball comps machine, so you can say, all right, this is how I play, and it'll tell you which players you play most like. But for right now, you can just go in here and say, all right, who is Brandon Ingram playing most similarly to? Not based off of talent or points or anything like that. It's purely based off of his breakdown of these categories. So this is the breakdown of those categories. And then here is, for this season, these are the players he's playing most like in the similarity scores. So this is interesting. These are all point guards and guards. So Ingram, a lot of pick and roll, a lot of ISO, a lot of handoffs. The way the Lakers are using him is most similar to a point guard. And then this compares how he played last year to how the league played last year. So you can tell he played more like a wing last year. This year he's playing more like a guard. So that's interesting. You can type anybody in here and figure that out. We have a tab here where you can pick a team. So right now the Hornets, somebody picked the Hornets, and they picked opponents, home or away, how many rest days there are, and it will calculate the odds for the Hornets to win like 3 games against these 5 teams, 2 games against these 5 teams, the most likely number of wins after those 5 games. So you can screw around with this, play around with the rest days, home or away, and have some fun with that. Next, we're moving away from the interactive tabs. Now we're getting into just some data. So this one is just all of the rookies that were drafted, and then I threw Ben Simmons in there. Shows the games they've played, player, team. This possession share is if you take the possessions that the team has overall as the denominator, and then how many like Fultz has had as the numerator. So like Lonzo has had about 12% of the Lakers' total possessions, and he has 28.3 per game. Actually, no, wait. So this is showing offense and defense. This is just showing offense. And then we can go in and look at, we remember that CPOE we saw before, that's the offensive component, defensive component overall. And these are color-coded, so you can see that Tatum is playing much, much better than some of these other guys. And then we can also see the percentiles for each thing. And we can sort these really easily. We can say, all right, who has been the best so far, just by this measure, which is just looking at scoring and looking at the primary defense of these guys. So Jason Tatum he's had the highest POE so far. Kennard's been really good. Kuzma's been amazing. Markkanen's been really good. But I think something to remember with this is rookies are pretty bad normally. If we look at all these top guys, so this is top 10 picks, only 2 of them are above average. And a lot of this has to do with these guys being inefficient, but also getting tons of volume. So if you're just a bad player and you're only getting like 2 possessions a game, you're not going to be accumulating as many negative possessions and bring yourself as far down as these guys who will be funneled possessions will be able to have. So that's why we see these guys lower down. They only have a couple possessions a game, and they're good. They can get you 5 good possessions. So that's why they're shown as more efficient, where these guys have tons of possessions and they're not doing as well, which really makes guys like Markkanen and Tatum and Kuzma really stand out because they have tons of possessions and they're also playing really well. So at any point in time, you can check this. It'll be updated. You can also go into the player overall tab and only decide to look at rookies, and that'll give you a lot of the similar data. So this overall tab, another one where you're really just looking at data. It has every player in the league, their position, how many games they've played, if they're a rookie or not. We can see Eric Bledsoe as a Buck has been incredible. Again, we have all these same different things, CPOE, expected points, actual points, the defensive component, the plus minus. We have their overall points over expectation, what they've done for the season. So if we just look at season POE, Steph Curry has been the best over the course of the year. We can go all the way down to the bottom, and Andre Drummond has been the worst so far. He may not have the worst per game CPOE. Actually, I think he does. But some of these guys, like Zips, hasn't played as much. So he has a worse POE than like Lonzo, but Lonzo's played more games. So he's had a more negative impact over the course of the year. So there are a lot of different ways to look at this data. I wouldn't say that POE is everything. There's a lot that isn't captured, like assists and rebounding and help defense, and those are really important. But I think this is a good measure to see how well players are scoring relative to the expectation. So now we can go into the player offense and player defense tabs. This is a lot of that same data, but just more in depth. We can see the possession share again, possessions per game. We can look at the players' expected points per possession. Oh, that's stuff we've seen before. But then this is cool. We can look into each of these play types and see how many points above or below the expectation they are. This is just like that player profiles tab at the beginning, but everybody's on here, and it's more in depth. And we can say, all right, who has scored the most points in transition so far above the expectation? And it'll be, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Yanni, we could say, all right, who has been the worst in ISO so far? They may not be the least efficient, but they've been the least efficient with the most possessions. So Wesley Matthews has lost his team 13 points relative to what an average player would if they were given the same number of ISO possessions. So you can play around with this. Player defense, pretty much the same stuff. And we can see there are a couple people on here right now messing around with things. That's it for those. We can also look at this data for teams. So I think this is useful. You can understand, all right, like which team has had the most possessions per game, or based off of the breakdown of their offense, how many points per possession are they expected to score? So just based off of that breakdown, the Suns have been running really good offense. Their execution hasn't been great, but they're running the right types of stuff. We could look at just in who's had the best half court offense. That may not be the same as see the Cavs. Their overall, the Cavs show up as the fifth best offense overall, but they have the best half court offense. So I think that's valuable information, and you can be looking through and see who's done well, who hasn't done well with different things. We can get the same stuff with team defense. And then the offensive styles tab is interesting. We can go in here, it's just taking a second to load, but we can go in here and say, all right, the league average for percentage of their possessions in transition is about 15%. I already actually have this sorted for transition. We can see, all right, the Lakers are second in the league with almost 20% of their possessions in transition. So this is the breakdown of how teams are spending their time. We say, all right, who's ISOing the most? The Thunder makes sense. Rockets make sense. Mavericks, that's a stupid idea. So we can look at all that. And now we're getting into the orange tabs, which big shout out to Jacob Goldstein. You should definitely give him a follow. Let me find him. I think his handle's at Jacob E. Goldstein. Definitely give Jake a follow. He's a genius with this stuff, really good with this data. So we were able to take the POE data for every team and look at, and we'll go to the daily win projections tab, look at each game for the year and say, all right, who's the home team, who's the away team, how many days of rest do they have, is the game home or away, and based off of that, project who's going to win the game. We can say, all right, the Celtics, Raptors, we projected the Celtics would win 66% of the time. They should win by 4.1 points. The spread actually had the Raptors winning, and the Celtics ended up winning. So you can go on this tab and look and see, all right, the projection was better than the spread, and it picked the winner. Let's see. So going back to this, based off of projecting every single game rest for the rest of the season, we can say, all right, how many wins do we think each team will have? And it won't always match up with their POE just because of their remaining strength of schedule, which we can find over here. So the Wizards have a pretty hard strength of schedule. These teams at the bottom do as well. This current strength of schedule is how hard their opponents have been so far. So the Grizzlies have played a tough schedule. The Wizards have played a pretty easy schedule. And then this is their total, what they've done already and what they still have to do. So going back over here, we could say, all right, this is their actual win percentage based off of the standings, And then based off of this win projection, this is what this is the percentage of games we expect them to win. And if we subtract these two, we can see what the difference is. So we can say, all right, let's take a look. Like the Hawks. The Hawks have won 15% of their games, and they should be winning 32%. So their record right now is underperforming how well they're actually playing on the court. So we should expect them to kind of regress positively and win way more games than 15%. Whereas a team like, let's see, like the Pistons, they're overperforming. They should be winning about 2/3 of the games, but they're winning about 3/4. So you can take a look at that, understand which teams are overperforming, underperforming, how they stack up against each other, their offenses, their defenses. We can say, oh, look, the Lakers have the third best defense so far by POE, stuff like that. Based off of those win projections, you could really cleanly, easily look at projected standings. So again, this isn't as much of a like solid projection, and I'm not saying, hey, I think the Magic are going to win 54 games. What this is saying is based on how the Magic are playing so far, and based off of this POE for them, and based off of their remaining schedule, how many games would they win if they kept playing with that same POE for the rest of the year? So we'll see a team like the Spurs were down in like the 30s wins like a week or two ago, because they're not playing with Kawhi and they just weren't playing as well. But now that they're going to have him back, they'll be going up. The Hornets, same thing. Right now, the way they've been playing without Batum is a 39-win team. Add him, and over the next couple games, I'm sure their POE will improve, and then they'll bump up. So Lakers are at 33 wins right now. If that's if they just keep playing the same way they are right now. We could also see the draft lottery, projected lottery. Went over this as well. I have a methodology tab, so you can go here, click on this link, and it'll bring you to a spreadsheet, or it'll bring you to a Google Doc that'll explain POE in more depth and more detail. We can see when the last time this was updated, and then we have a couple charts at the end here. And I need to figure out a way to put names on this, but I've been tweeting these out occasionally and then like editing in and adding the names myself. But you can see, all right, like how do the rookies stack up against each other, or how does the NBA stack up? Yeah, so that's the document. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Twitter. I am at, where the hell am I? I'm at T1M_NBA. So reach out to me, follow Jake, take a look at this. You can also, somebody like added a comment. You can add comments. You can use the chat function, and expect this to be updated every single day, every night. So enjoy that. Let me know if you have any questions. All right, thanks guys.